This divine action in the history of Israel was first the basic event of Abraham's call, God's covenant, in other words. Second, the deliverance from the furnace of Egypt. Well, this furnace of Egypt is the equivalent to the furnace of the Chaldees. This is the most venerable epithet of Abraham, being, namely, quote, he who was delivered from the furnace of the Chaldees, unquote. See, the old account says from that day until today, it is called Kaldawan, signifying what God said to the children of Israel, it is I who brought you forth from Egypt. Well, it's remarkable that several of our modern Jewish, I've got several sources here, let me see if I can get to them real quick. Several of our modern, there's one, there's another, of our Jewish encyclopedias and the, this is the Encyclopedia Judaica. Let me see if I can get a volume here real quick. I've got this photocopied off about Abraham and Nimrod. And, anyway, on page 117 in the Encyclopedia Judaica, they have a very beautiful illuminated page from the Leipzig Machzor in southern Germany. And this was circulating about the 1300s. What this is showing, and I can see the picture. I wish I could show it to you. Maybe I'll put it on my website here. It shows Terah delivering Abraham to Nimrod. And in a continuous narrative, Abraham is shown cast into the fire, but delivered by the hand of the Lord. That's quite a remarkable illustration. Here's another one on page, the very next page, 117. Let's see, was that 117, 116? 117, 118, where it shows, this is a miniature from Zudbat al-Tawarik. And this is in Turkey, and it circulated about the late 1500s. The lower register shows Abraham about to sacrifice Ishmael, and underneath it is a genealogy of the children of Ishmael. In the top register, Abraham is shown in Nimrod's fiery furnace. Very interesting. And it shows the fire surrounding Abraham, and he's sitting there all nice and cozy and comfortable. So there's a lot of interesting miniatures. Here's another one. And this is in the... This is Nimrod and the Garment of Abraham. This is in the Encyclopedia Judaica, Volume 12. This is a 1973 publication. Page 1166, right at the bottom right-hand corner, under the article on Nimrod, there's a detail of an illumination from a Haggadah. This is Spain in the 14th century, showing the enthroned Nimrod offering Abraham to be cast into a fiery furnace. So this principle of Abraham being thrown into a fiery furnace is really quite prominent in the Jewish aspects, but it's nowhere found in our canonical scripture in the Old Testament, whether in the Septuagint or in the Hebrew Masoretic text. We just don't have this theme. We do now because of our Book of Abraham. Nibley notes something else very interesting. Continuing on page 64, the furnace of Egypt is the equivalent of the furnace of the Chaldees, and the legends make Hagar an Egyptian woman of the royal court. Now, see, this is Abraham's other wife. Very interesting here. In fact, they note that Hagar could have been a daughter of Pharaoh. Most remarkable. When we get the old Jerusalem Targum on Jeremiah, it says that Hagar belonged to those very people who threw Abraham into the furnace. See, his attempted sacrifice is an Egyptian show. This is the idea. This is exactly how our Book of Abraham portrays this situation. More specifically, in a text known as the Pseudo-Jonathan, this reports that Hagar was the daughter of Pharaoh, the son of Nimrod. And this makes Nimrod, if not a pharaoh, at least the father of one. Very, very worth noting. In one of the better-known stories, when Sarah lost her temper with Hagar, you remember that, because Sarah couldn't conceive. And that was a big deal to the Jewish women, so she got mad at Hagar. And it's significant that we have the same sort of rivalry between Sarah, the true princess, and Hagar, the Egyptian woman, exactly as we do between Abraham and Nimrod. Sarah complained to Abraham, of course, and she accused her rival of being the daughter of Pharaoh of Nimrod's line, he who once cast thee into the furnace. So we have Pharaoh as a son or a descendant of Nimrod, This actually bridges the gap very interestingly between Asia and Egypt, and one of the most famous foreign potentates to put a son on the throne of Egypt, in fact, bore the name Nimrod. And his son bore the family name of Shishak or Sheshonk. And this is on our facsimile 2, figure 8, this actual historical name. It turns up in facsimile 2 as the owner. So at the time that Abraham went into Canaan, there was a man in Shinar named Rachion, or Rakayan, suggesting the famous Hyksos ruler Kion. He went to King Asverus, compare the Osiris in Egypt, you see. This is the son of Enam. At that time, the king of Egypt, we're told, showed himself only once a year to the people. And in Egypt, this Rachion was tricked. Or actually, he used trickery. What he did was he raised a private army. And because of this, because of him usurping the power, you see, of Pharaoh, he was able to impose a tax on everybody. On the bodies, actually, for burial to the cemetery. So this is where he began gaining his wealth. And again, we see this aspect of rivalry. Not only internal family rivalry, but rivalry between a foreigner and the king of the country. Well, this is beautiful Nimrod material, you see. This is his idea. We are going to rebel against God. This rivalry theme is very prominent in the legends. It's beautifully depicted in our Book of Abraham as well. And we're told that the wily Asiatic who came to the throne by violence and trickery was the very same Pharaoh who would take Sarah away from Abraham to try to make her his wife. There's just connections absolutely everywhere with this, and it's such an odd sort of thing because we're simply not taught this very well in our Sunday schools. They don't bother to teach us the overarching information. But now that the history and the legends and the mythology have begun to come together, and as scholars are translating these newly discovered texts, and as they're putting it together, we're seeing things that we never imagined we would see. Joseph Smith saw them back in 1830s with his translations of these scriptures, not only with Moses in the book of Moses now, and not only with Enoch in the book of Moses now, but also with Abraham and with Adam. So there's an enormous amount of material that we can use to check into these things, to see, look, what is going on? This is so remarkable. It's so very interesting. Another one of those fine little historical legendary details that Joseph Smith included, just kind of in an offhand comment in the Book of Abraham, but now we have a legitimate reason to think perhaps there was a ritual involved with this aspect. Nibley notes on page 65, on the romantic side, Pharaoh sacrificed his own daughter because she no longer honored him as a god, and she refused to lose her virginity in the fertility rites that he himself was sponsoring. Just as Ratha, the daughter of Nimrod, fell in love with Abraham, oh my, and also refused